celebrating 9 years of podcast excellence. The King of Podcasts Radio Network proudly presents the Wrestling is Real podcast, because wrestling needs us.
We didn't get any title changes, but what we did get were a lot of excellent matches tonight on a jam-packed AEW Revolution pay-per-view tonight as I broadcast episode 677 of the Wrestling is Real podcast. I said the number wrong last episode, but yeah, this show was jam-packed with everything you want, and it is the epitome of what pro wrestling can be done at its best. The show, from bell to bell, you had intricate storylines for the most part. Even in the buy-in matches, you had storylines for everything. You had all the plunder that you could have with certain heels, having certain hench people involved with their factions to disrupt the matches. And let me just say it like this. I don't have anything to complain about. This is just textbook classic professional wrestling. This is the way it's been done. This is the way it's supposed to be done. There's no other way to put it. And Revolution did exactly that. As I put it out there, they raised the bar for every other pro wrestling promotion on what to do to book great pro wrestling. They did that with a number of matches for this show that stood out. Now, when I look at what other shows are out there, I mean, look, NWA does a pretty good job of building things up. I just watched our last Power Trip with Anthony Mayweather now being the National Openweight Champion over Chris Masters, and a long storyline to that. And, you know, the same thing goes with the Middleweight Championship in MLW, where Myron Reed finally gets his win back on Tajiri, but it took a long time for that to get here. But in this show, and Impact Wrestling does the same thing with Sacrifice. We'll talk about that pay-per-view a little bit later on the show. But with AEW, Tony Khan has it down right. And it can be predictable, and we cannot have any title changes at all. But we had surprises tonight, because this is the era where AEW can continue to be such a different promotion and still be fresh with everything they're doing because of all the different free agents that are still out there. And they did that tonight again with a signing and a veteran also coming into the fray, that apparently we have 2 more people that are all elite. That comes into play, and then you just have the catalog of matches tonight, the menu of matches that came up tonight. And of course, you know there are other people on this roster that you could bring out there at any time that could be also on this show, but they are focusing so much. They're not oversaturating the market with having the same people over and over and again, except for the fact that, you know, you are seeing your champions all defending belts, not as much as you would think in other places, but they are defending the belts, and when they do, they matter. And when they matter, it's going to matter when somebody's going to make a title change. That's a couple of things you know from Tony Khan. If you're going to get a title change, it's going to be a big deal. It's going to matter. If you're going to get big feuds, you're going to get something out of them. And every match felt like it had something significant and important, and every match was meaningful. And that is one thing we all ask for as pro wrestling fans. We want meaningful matches. We want the matches to mean something. That's our complaint with WWE on a regular basis, which is why we look at WrestleMania and some of the matches they have on their card, they're not meaningful. This show, all it had was meaningful matches. Every one of them. Even in the buy-in. If you're watching Dark Elevation, Rampage, and Dynamite every week, you're following along and you see what's going on here. They are telling stories. They are having the matches culminate in feuds that will end, and then we move along, or we might continue. But they did that overall over and over and over again, and that's how it works. And you're talking about, now, they had already sold me on the buy-in. Normally I thought it would be like a 30-minute buy-in with something that would be on there, you know, nothing too special, more like a dark kind of feel. But this, honestly, the buy-in itself felt like a Rampage. You could have put that card on Rampage and it would have been just fine. Hell, the main event of the buy-in could have been a Dynamite match. It could have been a pay-per-view match, if we're going to be clear about it. But this right here, I don't even think it matters where you are on the card. As long as your match is on the card, it doesn't matter. And every other match felt like it had to build off the other one, and like no one could really. I mean, personally, to me, the buy-in match with House of Black against Pac, Penta Oscuro, and Erick Redbeard, that match alone raised the bar throughout the night for the rest of the card. Because top that. And there were another number of matches that gave us the same thing. I'm not going to go into all the great moves and everything that came into the matches, but I have my notes on on all these matches that happened tonight. It was like, you know what you get with AEW pay-per-views. They are nonstop. They do not wait for anything. They give you there's certain build-ups from the countdown show. They're going to insert here to make sure to just sell that point one more time as to why we have this big title match or this big feud. When it comes to Kingston and Jericho, setting it up before the buy-in. Then you have the same thing with CM Punk and MJF. This is the part with the pay-per-view. If you're going back to this, you want to make sure you have these packages in here just to kind of refresh your memory when you go back to these. Because when you watch these pay-per-views, you're going to want to watch them again. They're just that good. They consistently keep hitting the bar, and this can be maintained. I totally believe that Tony Khan, if he's able to go ahead and keep this kind of flow, you could keep this kind of booking on a regular basis. And we don't have to really deviate from anything because we're not having to compete here. AEW doesn't have to compete with anybody. They're on an island of their own. They do not need to compete right now with WWE and WrestleMania. They're doing their own thing. And meanwhile, there's the rest of the pack that is the lower independents that are on television that they have a lot of room to catch up. Because Impact Wrestling's right underneath them by far. With Ring of Honor now out of the picture, don't even worry about it. Ring of Honor is now the third promotion now in all of professional wrestling in North America on television. After that, I'd put it with, I'm gonna say, MLW, and then the NWA. And it's not a hit. I think MLW and NWA are kind of neck and neck when I look at everything that's being done. But AEW right now, by far, they're giving us a great alternative. And you know what? When you're looking at all these stars that have come in from NXT, or the NXT standouts that also went to the main roster of WWE that were showcased tonight, and let me just explain this to all of you as well. When you look at NXT, and I noticed every time I kept talking about NXT and the amount of Ring of Honor talent they had, and then I thought about when Ring of Honor got bought and Tony Khan bought it, not AEW, but Tony Khan buying it. I'm saying to myself, for those you fans that are so heralded by the NXT Black and Gold, when you look at the matches we had tonight, when you look at House of Black with Buddy Matthews and Malakai Black, and you look at reDRagon with Undisputed Era members, Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish, when you look at Keith Lee as part of the Face of the Revolution ladder match, when you look at Ty Conti, you could say, for the TBS Championship, when you see Shane Strickland signing to be an all-elite wrestler, when you look at Andrade El Idolo or John Moxley or Bryan Danielson, all these stars, and Adam Cole, and you herald all these stars that were in some way or shape or form were in the NXT system or WWE Performance Center, whatever, and you don't realize that how many of these stars, Ring of Honor was taken for granted by many of you that watched the NXT brand because it was a WWE product. Because it was a WWE product, you want to go ahead and put all this spectacle and spotlight on NXT when it really was. What Triple H really did was create Ring of Honor in WWE. That was it. But everybody wants to put a big thing about NXT being such a great thing. No, Ring of Honor did it first. And from now on, I'm not going to go ahead and give any more excuses to people out there to go ahead and crap on Ring of Honor because NXT was doing all the great, the works of works here, this praise of this black and gold organization. Ring of Honor did it first. All those stars that helped to build, for the most part, that roster in NXT Black and Gold. They're now in AEW, most of them, and they all came from Ring of Honor, with a couple of exceptions. because we haven't seen Tommaso Ciampa. You know, he's still back over there in NXT and WWE to an extent. Johnny Gargano, we still haven't seen him yet. It was indie anyway, but wasn't even Ring of Honor. Okay, that's, you know, we're just grasping at straws here. But it was all Ring of Honor stars. And AEW has done the best with most of the Ring of Honor stars. I mean, you don't have a Jay Lethal that came out tonight. Miro's not working tonight. You don't have Lance Archer working tonight. Like, there's so many other stars you could always talk about now that could be on the card and be spoken up for and be featured. But we have so much to work on, so many things to work with on a show like this. So for everyone to go ahead and realize how good things are with AEW, when you complain about, oh, we don't have NXT anymore. No, you got AEW. Oh, well, WWE doesn't do what we want. Well, you got AEW. What are you complaining about? For those of you fans that are just so diehard and just cannot help yourselves but to defend Vince McMahon and the man. Listen, after that interview with Pat McAfee, I'm all in with Vince as always because he came off likable. And as we know, that man has created so many great moments for us. He is not at the top of his game right now. I mean, he still has the sharp mind. We can see it. And he can still pull shit off for WrestleMania coming up next month. But when it comes to the kind of wrestling, the everyday grind of great wrestling that we want, it's going to come from AEW. And for everybody to complain about the fact, oh, but look what they did and how they did it. Okay, fine. But it doesn't matter anymore. I'm not going to let the excuses of what everybody else talks about from the WWE side that wants to go ahead and book their way, book it the way the Attitude Era was booked, book it the way Ruthless Aggression was booked, all of that. You guys can go ahead and take that booking and go somewhere else with it. I don't need any of that at all. It doesn't matter to me anymore. What's being done now in AEW, WCW couldn't get it right. Okay? TNA never got it right. AEW is getting it right. For how long? I'm not going to be the cynical, you know, woe is me, black pill kind of feel like it's going to go bad sometime. No, I don't think so. I think they got a bunch of years right now to keep this going. And I really believe that Tony Khan is doing the right thing by staying on course, going with his gut. His instincts are right. His booking has been great. And everybody can go ahead and Monday morning quarterback. Who should be in the main event? Who should be doing this? Who should be doing that? You know what? Go right ahead. I don't mind everybody doing that part. I think that's actually fine. That I have no complaints about. But everybody else that has to have a thing about, oh, well, certain people need to be in certain spots. My thing are just some of the intricacies of the show itself. When I look at some of the matches they had where you had people at ringside and the constant, you know, disruptions, the constant where the referee could not keep an eye on what was going on with something else behind the scenes, some kind of screw job thing, whatever there was. And there was on both sides. There was Wardlow coming out for MJF and helping CM Punk get the Dynamite Diamond ring to go finish the job. Screw job to screw job. What a better way to go ahead and, you know, put a fitting crescendo to that feud, right? Then, same thing goes for Dark Order coming out to help out Adam Page and his match. And, you know, there's the back and forth, you know, all together. And honestly, you know, the Britt Baker stuff, we'll talk about that in a minute. But I look at all this and I say to myself, I don't have much to criticize about it. Maybe it's a little bit too much, but the heels are the ones that are doing it. And because of all this, we're not getting DQ finishes. We're still getting finishes not whatsoever. I can't really have much to complain about it. Like, I enjoyed the show top to bottom. It was an A+ show. About as A+ as you can get. I mean, like I said, there's only a few things I would really have an issue with, and I'll bring that up. Let's go into the card itself. At the start, buy-in, Kris Statlander, Leyla Hirsch. This match, you know, when you're looking at Dark, and they've done a little thing in Rampage, a little bit in Dynamite, they've spread this feud around. Red Velvet's a part of this as well. And, you know, Leyla Hirsch has just been thorn in people's side. The trios matches that Kris Statlander was handing out there, and I forget who it was. Well, yeah, it was Red Velvet, Kris Statlander, Leyla Hirsch. Trios matches on Dark Elevation or on Rampage or Dynamite or whatever it was. And knowing that there was the rift between Leyla Hirsch and Kris Statlander, whatever reason it was, they played that out tonight. Kris Statlander, they played up a knee injury, an elbow injury she got early on. Leyla Hirsch, being the MMA star that she is, she's taking a part and she's taking advantage of it. The match was fine. I thought they were a little bit sloppy, a little bit here and there, but you could just tell that it's like where those two, Leyla, to me, and the Red Velvet, Sky Blue. You have some other stars that they're kind of working on that are trying to build themselves up. They get a spotlight here in the buy-in, which is nice, a nice little spotlight for them. But they got work to do. You're still talking about just stars that they're not necessarily ready to go ahead and be regularly on, at the level of a Britt Baker, a Thunder Rosa, or a Serena Deeb, or whatever. They don't have that right there yet, and that's okay. They're going to work on it. Because even we can see like the likes of Anna Jay that worked their way up to the spot, and there's a lot of good women to work with for Kris Statlander and Leyla Hirsch to keep working their craft, keep moving themselves up, work the dark matches, get themselves built up. They did a great job of explaining where Leyla Hirsch, was kind of being frustrated with the whole deal with Kris Statlander, and Leyla Hirsch finding her way to go ahead and win 5 wins in a row, work her way up, and really getting them to be more dominant in the ring. Hook and QT Marshall, this is normally a Rampage match, but we didn't have that for this show. But Hook, another shot with QT Marshall, and same result. Pretty quick match. It was a little bit longer than a couple of minutes. 5 minutes this time for QT Marshall and Hook, because QT Marshall got a little bit more of offense in this time. But Hook, dominant, poker face, consistent, crowd loved him, and he was just over. Another match. I mean, I can't believe the buy-in had, with the entrances we got with House of Black against Death Triangle and Erick Redbeard tonight. It's that era, that section, that genre of wrestling where you have to have the brooding kinds. This is where the Broods and the Undertakers and Kane and all these others that come from that darker area, the dark realm. What's the thing that Rosemary talks about with Father James Mitchell and Havoc and all that, right? That's the whole thing right there. It's just that darker end. And so this is what satisfies the crowd that wants to see that. Give me the death metal, give me the real thing with the House of Black and the look of them. House of Black, it's just a matter of time before you really start seeing, if you're going to start doing trios or anything like that, like House of Black is a faction to be reckoned with. And at the moment, they're just waiting for their spot to be in, because right now there's just a couple of factions that are kind of working each other out. When it comes to the Elite, when it comes to the shifting of the Pinnacle, the shifting of the Inner Circle, now we're going to have a bit of a rift with the Pinnacle now because Wardlow has failed MJF. We're going to have to see what the ramifications of that. And MJF, when Wardlow winning his match, becoming face of Revolution, and qualifying for the TNT title. There's a lot of stories to be talked about on Dynamite coming up Wednesday. A lot. So, Buddy Matthews looked like $1 million. These guys out here, him with Pac, him with Penta Oscuro, Malakai Black also in the mix. Erick Redbeard against Brody King, and that whole dynamic there. Erick Redbeard, it's amazing that Erick Redbeard's here, and the crowd's so into him, and it's just to know that these stars right here, many of them, when it comes to Malakai Black, Buddy Matthews, Pac, and Erick Redbeard, all former veterans of WWE that were just not utilized right. And it's something to be said where it's that Undertaker route, and they just don't know what to do with those kind of stars. They just don't know how to build those gimmicks. Only the Undertaker is the one that can be the best like that. Because if anybody else stands out, it's just not going to be. They're not going to allow that to happen. So there's always going to be a ceiling for those kind of darker edge stars. But they're giving a great spot here in the buy-in. Listen, they got on the card. I really don't even feel like the buy-in felt like it was a pre-show. It was a match they put on. All the matches were on YouTube and you could watch it for free. But I don't feel like it was any much of a distinguishing that devalued the buy-in from the rest of the card. You could have easily put those 3 buy-in matches and put them on Rampage. These were not throwaway matches at all. They all had storylines. that were well revealed beforehand and going on for weeks and months on top of that. Then you get to the main card and Eddie Kingston and Chris Jericho. Man, Eddie Kingston, look, this was a great match. I really loved it. Didn't take a whole lot of time. By the way, there wasn't a whole lot of time for all these matches. They got them in, but they weren't like, blown out 20, 30 minutes. You kept a lot of matches under 20 minutes. The only thing that you had that was two matches that were long was the dog collar match and the world title match. Those were 25 minutes each. That's pretty much it. Like the timing and the booking was all pretty well set for what they were doing. I can appreciate that. So then you start off, and it does have a little bit of that New Japan strong style. Like Eddie Kingston, Chris Jericho, and Jon Moxley, Bryan Danielson, they kind of felt like similar matches, but they definitely had different storylines to them. But the matches were spread out, so you really didn't feel much of that. I also felt the variety of the matches that they had and what they were doing with it was really good, because you mixed in this strong style, brutal, just physical style match with Eddie Kingston and Chris Jericho. Then you go spot fest crazy with Jurassic Express, reDRagon, and Young Bucks. Then you go to the ladder match, which is just a mixture of different stars, different sizes, and just a lot of things coming out of that with a great storyline in that in itself. And that was the kind of thing they went with. The dog collar match put in the middle. Then you go to the women's title. That was just a different feel, but also a lot of physical matches tonight. Really, really good. I know I'm all over the place tonight. Back to the first match. So Kingston does take, well, first of all, they're chopping each other up like crazy. Like, you just feel like they were like raw meat after they're done. Kingston takes a couple of backstabbers, walls of Jericho, and a lot of offense from Chris Jericho tonight. Missed the Judas effect, though. And Jericho, in this Eddie Kingston storyline, I feel like he has turned full heel, and that's going to really make an ultimate change to what the inner circle is going to be. Is Sammy Guevara going to be a part of that? Because I think he's a full face. What's it going to be when it comes to Santana Ortiz, which I feel that they're pretty much faces right now. And I don't know if him and Eddie Kingston and the whole disrespect at the end of the night where Eddie Kingston offers the handshake and says, okay, go ahead and respect me. Come on, respect me, Chris. And Chris has nothing of it. So there's that part. Chris is a sore loser. So we don't know what that's going to mean for the inner circle and what that's going to mean for Eddie Kingston going forward, but we have that to work off of. So do we continue that, or is this the catalyst where Eddie Kingston comes in and there's a power structure where Eddie Kingston now kind of works back his way to get Santana Ortiz back on his side, and who knows if he becomes the guy to come in the inner circle and kind of just break it all up. I can see it happening. He could be the guy that will basically just disrupt the whole thing, and that faction might still be something of a. It might be just a figment of imagination after this. It just might be a past memory, a passing memory. Who knows? I didn't mention this in the buy-in, but one thing that really did stand out was at the end of the card, before we start the main card, Shivani's out, think he's going to talk to Kenny Omega, and Don Callis, the Invisible Hand, comes out with an amazing promo that, I thought you were going to get Kenny Omega, and then really just burying Adam Cole and reDRagon, the other part of the Elite, but obviously Don Callis is loyal to Young Bucks, secondary to Kenny Omega, because that's the real Elite to him. And now seeing Adam Cole and the reDRagon come in, this Undisputed Era, what comes of that? I don't know. But I think we're going to come to a head where Kenny and the Young Bucks are going to have to deal with Adam Cole and reDRagon. We're going to get that feud pretty soon. And that's a great storyline to come with. Don Callis just set it right up. If Adam Cole wins the title tonight, he will be a transitional champion to a returning Kenny Omega, regaining the belt. That told me everything. Man, right there, I was just like, oof, that is good right there. Now, Adam Cole didn't win it. Spoiling it for later on, but yeah, he didn't win it. But man, I'll tell you, this whole story with those guys, that's going to be pretty good. And Adam Cole takes his first loss, by the way. That was also the point. 11-1. So anyway, let's move along. tag team title match, Jurassic Express versus reDRagon and Young Bucks. So we already talked about Don Callis already putting his little grubby paws into things. Well, reDRagon and Young Bucks, the story being told, you kind of see what was going to happen, where there was a rift between these guys. Obviously, they're not working well with each other. They kind of had a little bit of an alliance that was very thin at best, which Excalibur mentioned during commentary. And these guys hurt themselves, and eventually they canceled each other, and Jurassic Express won the match. So that was the story of the match, and it was very good. A lot of time for it, too. A lot of spots. That was quite of a match. And, Brandon Cutler coming out for a little bit of plunder. Otherwise, everything was set there. No Christian Cage at ringside because he had his own match coming up where Wardlow took on Keith Lee, Orange Cassidy, Powerhouse Hobbs, Ricky Starks, Christian Cage, Face Revolution ladder match for a future AEW TNT Championship match. And I forget where that match is supposed to be held. I don't know if they have mentioned when that title shot will be given. But the story has to be where Keith Lee finally gets to be what he was. He gets to be what he was in Ring of Honor. Let's be honest with each other. You get a little bit of the bask in his glory theme that he brought into NXT, right? But what really matters is Keith Lee. I know people don't want to hear this. You don't want to accept it. But the Keith Lee you're seeing out there right now was the Keith Lee we saw in Ring of Honor. When him and Shane Taylor were tagging up, except Keith Lee went on his own. And even before that, wherever he was working at, whether it was Evolve, or wherever he was working at, right? Bottom line is, Keith Lee got to be the superstar that that could just go all over the place, right? Yeah, Keith Lee wasn't involved. That's right. So you're looking at big man being able to go agile, run all over the place, leapfrog two guys, everything. Just solid work out of Keith Lee tonight. And him confronting Wardlow, confronting Powerhouse Hobbs, Ricky Starks taking some real damage, so did Orange Cassidy tonight. And at the end of the night, Wardlow comes out as winner. So another storyline begins where MJF now, already having his issues with MJF, the first part of what MJF was hoping was going to happen tonight happened. Wardlow gets the ring, and now he gets the title shot for the AEW TNT, for the TNT title upcoming. And it's a great place to go. And I think we all want to go and see if Wardlow gets a chance to become TNT champion. I think we're all ready for that, especially with the way they already have it, where Sammy Guevara has already won this twice. They can come up to this. Sammy Guevara is going to have to defend that belt. He's already got the feeling against Scorpio Sky. We'll see how that works out. Scorpio could go ahead and win it, and Wardlow could be the next opponent. That could be where they are down the line. That all sounds great to me. I don't think there's anything weak about any of this at all. I like where Wardlow's starting to go ahead and pull out from the pack. It's obvious there. It's unfortunate that Keith Lee and Powerhouse Hobbs are still kind of waiting in the wings for a chance like this. Ricky Starks the same way. But you had some great matches. You had some great people in this ladder match. And the lead up to it was really great. Like, really, to go ahead and culminate this match after all the qualifying matches, to get ourselves here and then get to this point where Wardlow's up there, and solid way to get things going. Everything looked good. Then you go into the TBS Championship. Jade Cargill is just going to keep holding on to this belt. And they're smart. They're giving her, more important opponents. Ty Conti's already had a pretty good record. She's been formidable. She gave Britt Baker a good run after the TNT, the women's title. So now TBS Championship. Good match. And it's not so much about Ty Conti as the fact that Jade Cargill is getting better. I don't know if I'm much about the green one piece, but I still like her, still like her in other gear. I don't know. That's just my preference. She's a good-looking woman, and she looks impressive. Still looks like an amazing star. You still had to deal with Ty Conti with the fact that she was going after Mark Sterling and the whole deal with that. Plus, Anna Jay also, accompanying Ty Conti to the ringside and getting thrown really badly into a table. Like, that pushback from Jay Cargill into the table was pretty nasty. That did not look good. So, 6-minute match. They kept it short, or almost 7 minutes. They need to keep it like that. They do not need to let Jade Cargill go out too long in the ring. She needs to continue to get better. They put the belt on her pretty early, and they're holding on to this 29-0 record right now. They're making a big deal. They're going to build that thing up. I'm wondering if they're going to let her go to 100 wins, whatever they're going to do, or 50 wins, whatever it might be. They're making a big deal. It's a Goldberg type of feel to Jade Cargill. Because that's what she is right now. She's a bit of a female Goldberg. I just want her to improve. I want her to have more in the arsenal, so she's not just only a couple of moves to her, and she's just like the specimen of fitness and, you know, size and strength. I mean, she's impressive in every way, shape, or form. She's amazing. I love Jade Cargill. And I am overlooking the fact that she might be still a little bit green, that she's still able to go and keep herself out there, not fouling it up, doing a pretty good job with Ty Conti tonight. Good match, 29-0. She holds on to the TBS title. And nobody talks about this, but I'm going to make a point. I didn't know if Shane Strickland was going to make it to AEW. I wasn't sure. I could have very well thought that Shane Strickland could make his way back over to MLW, but I guess there's nothing about that going on. The first, from the return of MLW coming back in, what was it, 2017, 2016? The first MLW World Heavyweight Champion coming back of the return of MLW as a promotion. And Shane Strickland, who did have a pretty decent, not a long run in NXT, but I am glad he's not a part of Hit Row. Also nice to know that he doesn't have to go out as Killshot and Lucha Underground. He can go out as himself. Shane Strickland, he kind of has the same kind of feel to like a Leo Rush or an ACH, in my opinion. But Shane Strickland does have a bit of character. He does have personality. And, you know, the Swerve gimmick will continue here. Swerve's house is going to be back. If we could just see him more as that and not so much of the Hit Row kind of feel to it, I don't know. I like Shane Strickland. It's nice to see him here. Just where do they fit him in? Again, with a whole roster like this. We also don't know what Ring of Honor is going to be done. We know that the video library is going to be used by Tony Khan. But there's all the talk about, you know, when I listen to Post Wrestling or I listen to Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez, they all talk about, you know, there could be something to be done where Ring of Honor could continue in some way, shape, or form, which is what we're asking ourselves. Is there going to be something like that at all? I don't know. I mean, there could be. We could get to something like that. I mean, I wouldn't mind it so much if they did. If they decided to go and create another promotion that would work off of that, I mean, they could do that if they want to. But, you know, it's just, I'm not sure what to think about it. If I want to see that, if they can do it and it can be something that can definitely be a split, I don't want it to be a brand split. I want it to be where Ring of Honor, if it does come back, it can still be a standalone promotion. And Tony Khan runs the company or manages it. Well, it doesn't have to manage it. Somebody else manages it for him and it uses the developmental system. I think what that would be where I think, after thinking about it for a while, I would love to see Ring of Honor become AEW's developmental system, which is where it would be in the normal echelon of promotions anyway, because people from Ring of Honor would have made their way up to AEW. So a Ring of Honor should be a developmental system. I personally think that what they could do is they could take, I mean, I don't know if they want to go and do anything with AEW Dark and Dark Elevation, but you already had the setup with a Dark Elevation, with Dark itself, and doing the tapings at Universal Studios. What you could do is you could, Ring of Honor could run from there and then take that show on the road for its own specials or featured matches on an AEW card, maybe, of the titles. Otherwise, I don't know. But you could run smaller shows with that, boutique shows. You could run matinees on an AEW show. I don't know, something. But I think Ring of Honor would serve the purists of pure wrestling in a certain way. And when you have so much talent of the past, of the legends of Ring of Honor that are now in this company, when you think about CM Punk or Bryan Danielson, and then you don't know who else could come into play and what could be done with that. And you got Jay Lethal now, been a long time there as well. I mean, is there anything, aside from the fact they got the production cameras, the equipment, the setup, well, what else could you do? And you got Honor Club as well. I mean, what if you did do something where you could use Honor Club, utilize that streaming service, bulk it up? I mean, there's a lot of things that can be done. So Ring of Honor, I'm just thinking about that, and I'm just saying to myself, I look at that and I say, man, there's a lot that can be done. I just don't know what they're going to do. But anyway, I digress because I mentioned Shane Strickland. Match number 5 is the dog collar match with one of the best storylines, one of the best feuds we've seen. This was MJF's best feud. And if it had to be somebody, CM Punk was it. And MJF has had amazing feuds with Cody, to Chris Jericho, and now here with CM Punk. And this was, I mean, you really didn't have to give me much more to keep me excited about this damn match. But that dog collar match delivered. This thing, I didn't even bother writing notes for it. I was just watching. And I'm going to take from WrestlingNews.co that put the notes down here about this, Angel Rodriguez, and just take a few things he mentions, right? First of all, the announcers not caring about MJF. Jim Ross calls MJF a disingenuous dick. And then Punk comes out to his old Ring of Honor theme and attire. Everybody's all caught up on that. Or some people could say the shorts or what he used in TNA, but, we're not going to split straws over that. We're not going to, whatever they call it, that, right? Split hairs, that's right. We're not going to do that. So then Punk is using the chain, tying it around the ring post, and getting MJF choked into the corner. And then Punk punches MJF in the head several times. So the offense is coming from there. And then MJF gets the return back, uses a chair to bust Punk's head open. And this is the original injury that he had already caused to Punk on Wednesday night. So they went ahead and just opened it back up. And then MJF grabs the fucking mic and told old-timer Punk that he'd tell the people he doesn't care and he should quit. And Punk said, eat shit, Max. And then we go along, and then these guys just go into something like just a blood feud with pure blood in there. Man, let me tell you what. So taking from the notes here that Angel Rodriguez says, okay, Punk wraps the chain around MJF's neck, executing a running bulldog. Punk whips MJF across the back with a chain. MJF turns it around, gets Punk in a sleeper hold. And MJF had trouble with his right hand because Punk stomped it early with his foot and chain. And then MJF locked an arm bar, but Punk countered into the Anaconda Vice. MJF rolled into a pin attempt. So it wasn't so much MJF was using the chain. It was Punk that was absolutely doing what he said he was going to do with that damn chain. And then there were some other moves they brought in here. Tombstone on the appearing apron. Punk countered and hit his own Tombstone power drummer that also hurt Punk's knees. You go along. And then towards the end, MJF is like starting to lose it. Calls for Wardlow to come out. And MJF, by the way, Wardlow was already dressed and cleaned up. So it wasn't like he was waiting to get ahead and get his hands dirty into MJF's match. He pretty much just sitting there. And Wardlow comes out. MJF asks for the Dynamite ring. Wardlow didn't have it. Punk hit the GTS and MJF fell into the tacks. I forgot to mention the tacks were thrown into the match. I didn't know those guys would go into that part, but they did. MJF definitely was not afraid to go into tacks. Whew. Wardlow realized the ring was in his right pocket. He left it on the ring apron for a Punk to grab. Wardlow left. Punk puts on the ring. MJF spits in Punk's face. Punk nails him in the face with the Dynamite Diamond ring. And Punk gets the pin and wins. So your heel, we all expected him to lose. It happened. CM Punk gets a strong win here. Did have to use Dynamite Diamond ring to knock him out. But hey, what a hell of a match, man. What a feud. I mean, I can't give this enough praise on how well this damn match played out and how it ended with such a crescendo to everything else they did leading up to it. From the promos back and forth with these guys months ago to now. What a program. one of the best things that AEW has given us, period. One of the all-time stories of this promotion is CM Punk and MJF. This shit, MJF is dynamite. Another level of heeldom, another level of evil, and they played it off really well. And MJF is still the chicken shit that had to go and get Wardlow's help, couldn't finish off CM Punk without getting help. And this is where MJF is right now. He is just this big monster heel. I don't know if they continue this feud at all. I don't know what you do next. Like, you could close out CM Punk. He got the win. Dog collar match. That should be the end of it. But we know there's going to be something with these guys talking to each other again. I just don't know what it's going to be next. But there will be some kind of talk after this when it's done. And that'll be sometime on Dynamite, I'm guessing. Because they have to give us what's going to be going on after this. And where... if MJF is just going to, tuck his tail between his legs and just realize he lost to his idol. His idol from his teenage years. Childhood idol. They did it. Excellent, excellent match. I mean, one of my favorite matches of the year, just on the fact of how they built this story. The match was great, but it was so amplified and so much more when you look at the entire storyboard of what they did to lead up to this tonight. Incredible. I loved it. Great stuff. Now, moving along, Dr. Britt Baker versus Thunder Rosa, AEW Women's title, and Dr. Britt Baker comes out with a new belt, which is better than the other one they had, more gold, a little bit bigger, a little more, defined, much like the other belts they have in the division, much like the world title itself. And, Thunder Rosa, I don't know what to think. I mean, she comes so close, so often. This is another match where she doesn't get there. I mean, again, the Lights Out match was a different story where Thunder Rosa took that. But Dr. Britt Baker continues to have her help with Reba and Jamie Hayter, and there's no way to overcome that. This match was great. When there was time for these two to go ahead and let themselves go, this is the best women's feud in the history of promotion. You're talking about the build-up. Now, they've had a little bit of time where Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker did not have much of a thing going on, but they, eventually Thunder Rosa worked her way back up again, kept working away. She took a little bit of a sidetrack to go to the TBS title. But now she's here, and you look and say, okay, she's at this point, and now we're just waiting to find out what happens next with Thunder Rosa, because, she went for the TBS title, went as far as she can go with that. Thunder Rosa made it to the semifinals against Jade Cargill and lost for the TBS title. And then she comes up here, works her way back up to become... Oh, that was also after a great little feud with Mercedes Martinez to build that up. And then we get to this point, and now she got another shot, which is really a shot that she should have had a while back, given on what she's been able to do in the women's division. And Rosa kept dealing with Reba disrupting pinfalls for the most part. That was really the main part of things. And submissions, because there was many times, pretty clear and obvious, that Thunder Rosa so many times had Britt Baker down, tapping out, or pinfall easily for a 1-2-3 count. They made that crystal clear throughout. I can say I didn't like where Reba and Jamie Hayter are so much involved in the match, with so much disruption that Dr. Britt Baker cannot possibly do anything without these two. And now they're both working on the same page. After a while, Jamie Hayter was kind of like a little bit on the crux. And they remember that Dr. Britt Baker used Mercedes Martinez to go after Thunder Rosa after that failed. So then Dr. Britt Baker had to do what she had to do. She had to go and take on for the world title and defend that world title against Thunder Rosa. So now Thunder Rosa is going to have another match where she can even the playing field somewhere so it can happen. So we already know, it's pretty obvious that Thunder Rosa is just getting the schneid every time from winning that belt. And something has to happen here. But we need to make that storyline very clear going forward. That Thunder Rosa needs to make mention of, if you didn't have Reba or Jamie Hayter out there, you know I would beat you 6 ways from Sunday. I could keep beating you and beating you and beating you. It's not even a second thought anymore. That's just the way it is. I would have beaten you so many times in that match for the world title, but you keep getting help and you keep screwing things over and continues to go along with that, and that's just the way it is. And it's true. So when I look at all that's going on right there, man, it's amazing how much Thunder Rosa has been built up, and in the losing effort, unfortunately. But it's something where I just want to make sure that with the losses she's been taking, that she doesn't fall down the card. Thunder Rosa needs to continue to be main eventing as she does right now, because she's been doing such a wonderful job in the promotion as she has been. And I hope that continues to be. She's 52-8 right now in AEW. 52-9. And they have booked her to be super strong. Super strong so far. So they got that, which is great. And all I need to find out coming up going forward is to make sure that Thunder Rosa stays strong. Somehow she's got to get up to that title again. They're not going to put her up against... They're not going to put her up at all against, say, Jade Cargill. That's not going to happen because it would be pretty obvious that they did. And by the way, before this match, she was on a 30-match win streak. Number 1 contender. Like, she's booked so strong, but I don't get what it is about Dr. Britt Baker. They continue to have her hold that belt. What is it about her that is so important to keep that belt on her? Because she's been on top of that for so long. It's one of those things, it's an anomaly about how long she's going to be able to hold on to that belt. I don't know. And when you think about it as well, we've only had a couple of people that have won that belt. We've only had 4 names. At the moment, Dr. Britt Baker has held on to that belt. She wanted a Double or Nothing. And right now, 281 days. So she's going to go most likely into Double or Nothing, the champ, with 1 year complete. What do you do next? It's no doubt in my mind that Thunder Rosa should be up there, continuing to go after that title. That's what has to happen. And it's got to be the time where Thunder Rosa is going to be able to go and win that belt off of Dr. Britt Baker, among everything else. That's got to be the ultimate goal for Thunder Rosa to win. She's great. And unfortunately, I wish she was a champion. But she is really great chasing. Excellent. I just don't know what you do next. But the one thing is, you got to make sure to keep her strong, especially when she's a face right now. Because when this kind of situation, she gets so close to it, we don't want to see her turn heel. I don't want to see her turn heel, because that makes sense. Because that would be something that maybe WWE would do, where they would turn a Thunder Rosa heel after getting so close, and then just pull away from being in the title picture into something else. What do you do to keep that story going? Because you got to keep that story going. I believe you have to. But I think there's going to be a day where Thunder Rosa will beat Dr. Britt Baker, and we'll get that world title, and that'll be amazing. It's got to happen someday. They just keep signaling that every time these two meet each other. It just feels like that. Plus, they have great matches with each other every damn time. They always have great matches together. Bryan Danielson, Jon Moxley. I think this is like 7th match on the card. And this is on the card. But they definitely left you with a post-match angle that really made you think about this match. So in this match, the crowd got quieter. They kind of realized this match was going to go New Japan style. This was a New Japan style wrestling match. This is a Wrestle Kingdom match. this will be a featured match, maybe like up towards the main event at a Wrestle Kingdom. I mean, what was that kind of match? These two, like I was waiting for like somebody in the background, one of those, like there's always like there one or two women that are in the crowd, but like I was waiting for that to go on. I mean, you could have brought Kevin Kelly out to go. He could have brought Kevin Kelly out to go ahead and do the matches, like, you know, and just kind of give it like that New Japan kind of feel. But then Jim Ross is out there too, so there's also that. Felt like MMA, all the submissions, all the back and forth, all the strikes and blows to each other. These guys were also like really into it. Jon Moxley also with the Crimson Mask towards the match of the night. The second match of the night we get the Crimson Mask, but this was a forced Crimson Mask, unlike CM Punk that already had gotten sliced up a bit and already punctured before on Wednesday. And then you go into this match, and these guys, they got time. 21 minutes for this match. You know, you could have given me this match for 60 minutes. I could have been fine with that too. But Bryan Danielson, this Bryan Danielson right here, I love it. I'm so glad he gets to work this type of style again. I'm so glad he gets to be so damn brutal and so good. Like this is what Ring of Honor Bryan Danielson gave us, and this is what we did not get as much in WWE, but I love this style of Bryan Danielson. This right here, him doing this kind of work where it's not like so much of a no yes movement, none of that shit. It's just ground and pound. And him and Jon Moxley, shit, these guys. And by the way, a great package they had with both of these guys working in Warrior Wrestling, you know, when they're early on in their careers, where they face each other, and they kind of just segmented both of them out. And let me tell you, what a hell of a match these two had. Danielson had a triangle choke, didn't give it up, even if it meant getting himself pinned. And then afterwards, Danielson starts going after it, and then Danielson and Moxley continue to fight with each other. And it's not until William Regal makes his way down to confront both men and a shocking post-match angle, and everybody's like, whoa. Former NXT commissioner, William Regal, and they called him William Regal. I did not know they would call him that. I thought they would have said Steven Regal back in his old days. Lord Steven Regal, the Blue Bloods, right? You know, get your hand on the wrist and go. Well, that's British Invasion, not Blue Bloods. But yes, William Regal, basically looking like he just came out of NXT, and he goes down to slap in the face both Danielson and Moxley because he had experience. He had history with both of them, and he gets them to shake hands. So is William Regal now helping to formulate a tag team? Like, are we going to get now, and listen, I'm just fantasy booking right here. Please tell me we're going to get FTR, accompanied by Tully Blanchard, versus Jon Moxley, Bryan Danielson, accompanied by William Regal. Is William Regal going to be a manager for these guys? Please tell me they're going to do that. Please tell me they're going to do that. And the problem is, who's going to talk? They're all great promo cutters. Like, what are you going to... The other problem is FTR got like a promo cutter with Tully and Dax and Cash. Like, what are you going to do there too, man? What? We're just blessed with talent on this damn promotion. This roster is amazing. Jam-packed and stacked. It's incredible. Then you go into the Tornado Trios match. So there was no DQ. This is where you got a lot of table spots and a lot of the stuff going on. This was a crazy match. So AHFO, Matt Hardy, Andrade El Idolo, Isaiah Cassidy versus Sting, Sammy Guevara, and Darby Allin. Darby Allin just continues to amaze. Sting is just the work. It's just a freak of nature. 62 years old. How is this guy still working like he does Stinger? He just does. It doesn't matter with this guy. He just doesn't care. Incredible. So, AHFO, you're talking about the disruptions. This was a lot. Butcher and the Blade, and Mark Quinn, and like, man, let's just really throw out the shit going on with AHFO. It was so much plunder going on, but it was amazing how Sting, Sammy, and Darby were able to go in and work through all of this. But again, this is where the heels, they know they're kind of like outmatched. And they're weak because, Sting, Sammy, and Darby Allin just are too strong. And they've built stories in between all that where Andrade wants to get his hands on Darby Allin to join them. And Sammy Guevara holding the TNT title. And all that going with that. And then Sting, and then the Sammy and Darby kind of making sure they were still on the same page together. All that going on. Incredible stuff. But there was a lot of plunder in this match. More than I would expect. But, I get it. Just like I get with it when it comes to Dr. Britt Baker. Is like, there's just certain heels that just have so much. It's funny that MJF only had Wardlow to deal with. Nobody else from Pinnacle. Right? Pinnacle didn't even have, we didn't have FTR out there tonight. Right? We didn't have any of that part. And then you had some moves out there was just like, oh boy. Sting, they have a two-story stack of tables. Sting goes off a raft or like off a balcony. This guy, man. What? Fucking A. Sting. What? You are crazy, man. You are nuts. Sting with a table spot to Andrade on two-story tables. And then Sammy Guevara, of course he has to match somewhere. Spanish Fly to Isaiah Cassidy on tables. Shit's crazy, this match. Just amazing stuff. And Matt Hardy's the one in the middle of the ring at the end of the match to go ahead and get beat up. Takes the coffin drop. And down goes Matt Hardy in the pin. Darby Allin gets the pin. And great stuff. Really fun match. 13 minutes on that. And then the world title. You could let these guys go all night too. Adam Hangman Page against Adam Cole. Of course, the crowd couldn't help themselves. We want Adam. Everything was just, we don't care which Adam. We are happy with whichever Adam wins. Because, again, Adam Cole's the heel. And Adam Page is the face. But we both like him. And these guys, they faced each other before. You have to remember, we used to have the Kingdom back of the day in Ring of Honor. So there's a storied history with these guys. To think that Adam Page now, who was the water boy for Adam Cole and the OGK, remember that? With Taven and Bennett? And knowing that Adam Page now in the storyline here in AEW, he's the world champion, and Adam Cole's coming in to go after that belt. And the match we get for this, and also they made it really close. It could have gone either way. Adam Cole getting help from reDRagon, then Dark Order comes in to interfere, and all that. And it really was the point where Adam Page was going to hit the buckshot on Adam Cole, and so reDRagon had to come in and interfere. Then you got Dark Order coming in, plundering this as well. But it didn't overshadow the matches. But we had 3 matches that had a lot of plunder, right? And that's the one thing I really would say would be one of the things that would kind of be bothersome. But I think it's just a matter of that they don't want to do more than what they did. Like, you really kind of push the envelope on how much plunder you could do in certain matches, which they did, but it didn't necessarily take away the whole disruption of the matches themselves. Well, anyway, Hangman Page does win this match and does retain the world title on this card. And it was 25 minutes, another great match with this. Where at the end, Page ties Cole to the ropes. Page hits several kicks, but Cole hits a kick. And Page charges at him. Cole frees himself, and then Page hits another kick. Running kick to the head. Buckshot lariat. And Page wins. And still, great stuff going on all throughout the night. Hell of a night for this show, man. Really good stuff. Really love what they had. So, A+ show tonight. You heard me for the last hour. I said it. I loved it. I'm going to take a couple things and now talk quickly about Sacrifice from this weekend, which did come out. I thought they had a pretty good show, and actually a surprising show for the fact that they actually had title changes this weekend. So we'll just glom over that really quick. I liked Impact Wrestling Sacrifice this week. It was pretty good. A couple of notes that came from the matches they had on Saturday night as well. Start off with Rhino and Eddie Edwards to start off the night. Honor No More and Team Impact. They're still doing that kind of thing right now. The show is fine. Now, Steve Maclin interfered in the match, causing Rhino to lose the match in the crowd. But all the talk about Steve Maclin kind of screwing over Team Impact, they kept talking about it. It could happen. Well, it pays off. Steve Maclin actually did do that. Then you got the Knockout Tag Team titles, Influence and Inspiration. I've been watching the Caleb the K involvement. It's just kind of there. But it was enough to go and say, okay, the Influence won. So Madison Rayne, Tenille Dashwood, new Knockout Tag Team champions. Jonah and PCO. PCO is another freak of nature. This guy and what he's able to do with moonsaults and jumping out of the top rope down to the floor and all this shit. Those guys also had a hell of a job. Jonah looked great in victory from this. Much like a Keith Lee, there's a lot you could do with Bronson Reed. You know what I'm waiting for with Impact Wrestling? I'm waiting for Sami Callihan to come back from injury. And we haven't seen him yet, but we're going to get Rebellion coming up. I don't know what they're going to be setting up for that card coming up after this, coming out of Sacrifice, but hopefully getting down to Slammiversary or Bound for Glory, we get Sami Callihan back. And one of the guys I'd love to see him go after is Jonah. Just big beast kind of thing. I'd like to see that. If we can get that down the line, that's one of those guys that, you want the rite of passage in Impact Wrestling, you got to work through him. Or maybe, they already did Josh Alexander, which Josh Alexander has re-signed and did show up at Sacrifice, by the way. And he's going to go after Moose, which is what we wanted. We want Moose, even though he won his match over Heath, which we didn't think anybody in the right mind thought that Heath was going to win. Moose wins. Josh Alexander, post-match, he's going to go after Moose again. Maybe that's where we're going to get a Rebellion. And that's a great way to tie that back up again if we're going to get to that point. Finally get ourselves back to what was going on with Bound for Glory and that whole back step with Scott D'Amore saying you got to calm down, you got to take some time off, all that kind of stuff. Then Jay White, Alex Shelley. These two, it's a New Japan match. Let me take this story from Jim LaMotta at PW Media that really did put a good way of how he talked about it. He said everything in the bout was crisp and solid with a well-paced contest showcasing how smooth these two are inside the ring. Alex Shelley, one of the most underrated competitors of his generation, because he's a good wrestler, but man, he's never been much of a talker. And it's always been where he kind of works himself alongside Chris Sabin and the whole Motor City Machine Guns thing that works. It goes without saying, Jay White's one of the best in-ring performers currently in the sport, even though most North American fans aren't familiar with him because the vast majority of his career has been in Japan. See which way Jay White's focus is rightfully on New Japan, so his work in the U.S. is more of a detour and still a lot of uncertainty with the pandemic in Japan. Jay White gets the win. This was a very good match. And a long match, by the way. I had a lot of time in this match tonight. On that match on Saturday night, as a matter of fact. I got to look at the timings to see how far they actually went and how much they did. Looking at the times real quick. Here we go. Alex Shelley, Jay White was 18 minutes. They gave 12 minutes for the world title match, 11 minutes for the world tag team titles, 14 minutes for the Impact Knockouts Championship, which we'll talk about in a minute. That also was very important. Move along. Deonna Purrazzo, the champ. The Ring of Honor Women's title was defended this time. And Chelsea Green got hurt in the match. At an issue where she had her wrist hurt, and she did break it. Unfortunately, so hopefully she will recover okay. Sorry to hear about that happening to her. But Perazzo looking great out there, as always. Mickie James made the save. Tag team title match. Good Brothers dropped the belts. Well, do not drop the belts. It was violent by design. They're playing the whole Bullet Club thing to kind of, with Guerrillas of Destiny, the whole deal with that. Wasn't much about the match, but they're building that storyline with Bullet Club. It's there. But then the other thing we had was Mickie James and Tasha Steelz, with Savannah Evans at ringside accompanying Tasha Steelz, and Tasha Steelz winning. I did not expect Tasha Steelz to win the Knockouts title, but it's a nice surprise. After everything that was done, first of all, Fire and Flavor going split up. And for whatever reason, Kiera Hogan leaves Impact Wrestling. She's now with NWA, a little bit of time in AEW. So she's working AEW right now, a little bit dark, and she's working NWA. And then I look here, and so, they saw Mickie James and Kiera Hogan face each other. But then I go and look, and then Kiera Hogan also faced Camille for the women's title in NWA, the Burke. So they're giving her things there, and I guess there's opportunities that we're not going to give Kiera Hogan while she was in Impact for whatever reason. Tasha Steelz was who Impact Wrestling wanted to get behind, and she's been great. And I think Tasha Steelz, I remember seeing her at Hard Times NWA a couple of years back. And to where she's gotten to now. And Impact Wrestling giving her the heavy. And Mickie James dropping the belt. Wow. So I guess a rematch happens at Rebellion. That's where we go with that. And like I said, Moose defeats Heath by pinfall. Done. And Josh Alexander comes back. So there's quite a bit to go with that. It does kind of suck that, even though we had the matches we had. Oh, Trey Miguel beat Jake something, by the way, for the X Division title. Defending it. And Jake something right now, we're learning, is a free agent, so we don't know if he's going to come back, but doesn't look like it's anything bad at all. And then OGK took on Rich Swann and Willie Mack, and Rich Swann and Willie Mack won the match in a short match. But OGK, I don't know. They're kind of just all over the place. I mean, they're not meant to be there long. We don't know what Ring of Honor does next. We don't know what NWA does with them, because NWA has already been working with OGK anyways. Like, there's a lot of the places where OGK can go. So, it's a lot there. So, Sacrifice was a pretty decent show. I'm glad to see that Impact Wrestling show on Impact Plus, when it's not one of their major four, they finally had title matches, title changes, and some surprises. That was actually really nice. So, I don't want to say anything bad anymore about what Impact Wrestling does with the B-level pay-per-views. They did give us something. So, that's great. Really great weekend of wrestling, man. I got that in. I got the MLW show. I watched Fusion this week. I got to watch NWA Power, Trip, and NWA USA, their finale on that. A good, healthy wrestling weekend, I must say. So I was happy with all that. It was fun. And that's going to do it for tonight's show. We'll come back. We'll look at what WWE's doing for themselves. After the Madison Square Garden show, and where things go with Raw and SmackDown, where they're going to build themselves. Because now the focus for wrestling goes to WrestleMania. 4 weeks away. How are they going to pull this off? I'm looking forward to it. I'm waiting to see what they're going to do. And so we're going to leave it there. Thanks for listening in. Come back this Wednesday going into Thursday for another Wrestling is Real podcast, because wrestling needs us. Thank you for listening to the Wrestling is Real podcast. You can find all previous episodes at wrestlingisreal.com or subscribe to the show on all major podcast outlets, including Apple, Amazon, Google, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Follow the King of Podcasts on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at King of Podcasts, and search King of Podcasts on YouTube, or type youtube.com/JBRASCO951. This has been a presentation of the King of Podcasts Radio Network.